I'm Jeff Morgan. I am here with Terri and Mark Stemmon. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, why you're here, how you got involved in what you're doing and stuff like that?
Yeah, hi Jeff. It's great to see you again.
Yeah,
Jeff
you too,
Jeff is a friend that we met a few months back, and we appreciate him taking the time to meet with us. But we're here at Clay Clark's Health and Freedom Conference, episode number 7. We have two organizations. One, Let Our Children Go, which can be found at letourchildrengo.org, and the Heritage and Freedom Coalition, which can be found at h3fc.com. And we are here to highlight another aspect of fraud that Clay and company are talking about on the stage right now in respect to election fraud, medical fraud, and religious fraud. But what we're highlighting is fraud in respect to what's happening in the unlawful separation of children from their parents,
Right.
in the corrupt CPS and family court system. Right now we have children who are being unlawfully separated from their biological parents in fraudulent operation. What I mean by a fraudulent operation is this, Jeff, is that in just about every state in our country we have statutes pursuant to child welfare actions where child abuse and neglect is a criminal matter. Mm-hmm. And yet what's happening in these cases, in over 80% of the cases where they're removed from their home, there is no criminal charge.
Right.
And so it's fraudulent because they disguise it as a civil proceeding in the name of a safety and best interest of a child, but there is no criminal charge. And so what's happening is Americans are being denied their due process rights under our constitutions and our state and federal constitutions, and they're proceeding against people in closed courts without jury trial, no public oversight. And it's a handful of people who are conspiring to kidnap people's children under the color of law. And this is all being driven by the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997 that Bill and Hillary Clinton, with the 105th Congress at the time, enacted. And what it did was it incentivized the CPS and family court system with large amounts of our Title IV Social Security money in the name of the safety and best interest of a child. And so what we have happening is people are making allegations, or they're just fabricating allegations against parents to justify the taking of their children and placing them in foster care. And one of the big problems with this is that a lot of people ask, why aren't children being placed with relatives who are being removed? Mm-hmm. The reason for this is that under Title IV funding, very little or no money actually flows out to the state governments or to the officials who are facilitating these wicked schemes. The big money only flows out for foster care money or for foster care placement. And so what's happening is that we are seeing an increased number of requests for good-hearted Americans to be foster care parents, right, where there is no placement with relatives. And so it goes back to what's actually happening is that there's child trafficking occurring through our CPS and family court system, and there's money laundering along with the trafficking. And so what's happening is that once children are being placed in these very traumatic situations where there's no relatives that they can connect with, and they're basically placed with strangers, that they are, just emotionally damaged, and so they get placed on psychotropic drugs. And so the scheme goes a little bit deeper, because what happens is for every service that they can force upon a parent or any kind of a drug that they can place a child on, there's additional revenue streams that flow out through Title IV funding that goes out to these corrupt people facilitating this. And so we want to raise awareness before the American people and let them know that we the people are not going to tolerate this, and that they do have a place to go, that we can connect, that America is beginning to wake up. That's the whole point of the Health and Freedom Conferences, is to we awaken America. And so we have a personal story on this. Before I get into that, we want people to know that this isn't just about the families who have had this happen to them, because this has happened in all 50 states,
yes, it's happening all over
every county, correct. But the threat before all Americans out there is that if you have children or you want to have children, the incentive under the Adoption and Safe Families Act is that the states have to increase the number of children in foster care every year in order to receive an annual bonus. And so what happens is that as you have children aging out,
you've got to replace them plus.
That's correct. They have to have a proportionate increase pursuant to the ones who age out. So
right,
it's a continually driven thing, and it's a real problem because, like I said, the additional things with this is after the children are removed, and this is part of the fraudulent operation, is that they subject parents to services that they want to force upon them.
And then they have to pay for them too, probably.
Yes, and they have to pay for some of those services. and their livelihoods are severely impacted, even to the point of their personal destruction and ability to maintain a sustainable way of life. And so these services that they want to force upon people are like a psychological evaluation, family counseling, anger management, drug tests, whether you need it or not.
Right.
And so they lead people down a path thinking that if they just comply with these services, that they may get their children back. And this usually is stretched out over many months or even years. And people who do comply, what we're seeing happen is it's very rare when someone does have their child reunited with them. It does happen, but it is the exception and not the normal, and not the norm. So what they do in the midst of these services is, in many cases, these criminals in our system will falsify drug tests. They will falsify psychological evaluations and other things in order to justify the eventual permanent placement of our children with people who are not family or these foster care providers. So what's happening is they're doing this because for every service that they can provide or force upon a parent, there's additional revenue streams that flow out under the Title IV funding. And so there's a continually outflow of money that we, the people, pay into under our Social Security system that is being rated on the heads of our children in the name of safety and best interest. And then what's happening is the number of children in foster care, and the way that they place children in foster care, a lot of people will hear a radio commercial or a TV commercial, and they'll see a sign in their community always asking Americans to be a foster parent.
Right.
And so it begs the question, why is that request going out when we have so many relatives who are wanting to be the care providers?
Yeah.
And so what's happening is because they're increasing the number of children in the system. Right now, on any given day in America, there are over nearly close to 450,000 children, give or take a few, in foster care. And so if you have children who are aging out, they always have children who are coming in. And then what happens is child traffickers are becoming foster parents.
Right.
Unknowingly, and then they are getting hold of the children, and then they're trafficking them, conditioning them into perverted activities. And then even after they age out, they're conditioned in the human trafficking. And so when we hear about the human trafficking and the child trafficking, especially at the border, this goes both ways, and it's happening through our system. And so a lot of people may not know it, but when you see a news story about children who are being rescued, one thing Terri always says is, where do people think that they're getting their children from? Well, we can tell you that based on mainstream stories that are out there in the news media, that there are children who are being rescued who have been placed in the foster care system. And so this is a really big problem, because if we don't have the securities of our constitutional rights, and these people can continue to break up families and deny us our rights, then our country is in grave danger. So, yeah,
go ahead.
No, it's okay.
No, the one thing I wanted to say is to piggyback off of what you were just saying. The U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking, Jeffrey Rogers, I believe is his name, who's the president of that, he said that when you look at human trafficking, approximately 67%, maybe the figure's even higher than that, come from foster parents. And when you look at what they're talking about, there aren't that many children proportionately compared to the general population in foster cares or has gone through the system, but those people that have gone through it represent 67% approximately of the people that have been trafficked. So to continue on with what you were saying, go ahead.
Yes, and so we're out here raising the awareness on behalf of not only ourselves, because we have a personal story that I'll get to here in a minute, but also the tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of parents and children who have been severely impacted in this way. And the effect of it is that it's very damaging to the children and their well-being, but also to the parents and their ability to maintain a sustainable livelihood, like I was saying before.
Right.
In many cases, they will force parents to pay child support, even though they're getting the Title IV funding for their care from the American people. They're rating the Social Security system, so it's kind of like they're double or triple dipping in some cases.
And we forget the fundamental thing is they're kidnapping your kids.
Correct.
That's what's going on. You're paying your kidnappers and what also are your tormentors to do the activities that they're doing.
That's right.